specific dates for the Vols 2024 schedule have been released. So what do we know? Because the whole schedule, people are asking me, I'm trying to plan a wedding, Dave, and I see you at the gym, and and I'm trying to figure out when I should hold my daughter's wedding. I don't know, because the schedule's very much in flux, because Nick Saban decided at the spring meetings he wasn't okay with a certain scheduling model. So the whole room of SEC coaches got split and nothing happened. So specific dates for the Vols have been revealed. What do we got?
All right, so the dates that were already in place, Tennessee's first 3 weeks of the year, was UT Chattanooga on August the 31st, NC State on September the 7th, and Charlotte, and then Kent State on September the 14th. I'm so sick of these. I don't know how you feel about it, Dave. I'm so sick of these neutral site games against mediocre teams. I think just do a home and home, and that's my thoughts on it. But
yeah, I'm to the point. I'm to the point where just get rid of them altogether. Like if you schedule these things 5 years out. If you know that North Carolina is going to have a Drake May, then I'm okay.
No, this is North Carolina State.
No, right. But that's not what I was talking about. If you know North Carolina is going to have a Drake May and you schedule it 5 years out, then it looks pretty cool if you play that game in Charlotte. Okay, an early season game, which they've done before. They played Tech. If you know Virginia Tech has Mike Vick coming up, then yeah, you want to see that. But it's an incredible gamble for what 80% of the time comes out to just be an football game that would have been better suited to be held on one of the two teams' campuses. So I'm completely with you.
Yeah, totally agree. And then the other date that was already set was the second to last week of the season. Sometime in November, Tennessee plays UTEP, which they played UTEP this year. So it's kind of wild that they play UTEP again. But
I can't get enough UTEP.
So that was basically already in play for the season. Kent State, North Carolina, Chattanooga, NC State, Kent State, and then UTEP. Now 3 SEC games have started. So week 4, Heupel's, here's a big one. Heupel's SEC opener next year will be at Oklahoma, which is so Heupel has to visit his old school for his SEC opener next year, week 4, which will be September the 28th. To me, that's the headline.
That is the headline. And do you think that the SEC did this on purpose?
I think they definitely wanted it as one of their earlier games. I think ESPN may have done this on purpose. ESPN wants this narrative because, in all likelihood, barring some crazy thing with NC State, Tennessee will be 3-0 headed into that game. And my guess is, I can't confirm this, but I'm willing to bet Oklahoma's going to be 3-0 heading into that game too. So,
well, and just so you know, when I say the SEC, I mean the SEC and the ESPN. I mean, to me, that's just a slash, SEC/ESPN. I listen, put together every single good storyline you can. Have we heard of Texas with potentially Arch Manning at quarterback is playing in Oxford? Listen, I would adhere to tradition as much as possible. But if somebody gives me, like Jacob Warren told us to play Catan. Have you ever played Catan? No. It's kind of like Monopoly, but not really. It's complicated. I got beat a lot. But I threw myself into Catan, and I had a brand new game, and I read about it on vacation in June, and I watched videos. That's the way, if I were the SEC, I would handle this. I got a brand new game. I'm going to do everything orchestrated that I can to make for better storylines. And if you don't like it, then you can go watch the Pac 2.5.
No, I agree. And that's a big deal. And so you're right. And that's how they're doing with Tennessee and Oklahoma. And I just looked up Oklahoma's schedule. Their first 3 games are all at home: Temple, Houston, and Tulane. So both teams, in all likelihood, will be 3-0. And then you have Josh Heupel with Nico Iamaleava going to visit Oklahoma in a place that he thinks he was wrongfully fired from, the place where he won their only national championship in the past 40 years. And this is going to be an epic clash. I'm just going to tell you guys that right now. That's going to be the storyline.
It is hot.
It is. And for those who don't know, Oklahoma in September is still pretty darn hot out there.
It is hot. And can you pull up? We may not have all the SEC teams. Can you pull up who else is playing on that weekend? Is that the premier game, Tennessee, Oklahoma, in week 4?
That's the premier. Yeah, that's the premier game of that week. There's a couple of other big ones. So Tennessee and Florida is going to be back to back.
So that's the
Florida.
premier game nationally. Tennessee, Oklahoma is going to be the
Well, we don't
biggest
know.
game
They don't
nationally.
have they don't have all the schedule set nationally. These are some leaked dates by the SEC and ESPN.
Okay,
And
but
ESPN.
okay, so let's take the SEC set of the side because we don't know completely. But are you able to pull up the schedule on that day? What other games will it compete with?
No, that's all we've got for that day right now. That's all we know for that day. With
Okay.
the SEC.
No, not just the SEC, the entire the world of college football.
I don't know if I can pull that up yet.
You go ahead and finish your thought. Let me see if I can pull it up. By the way, we have the poll question on board if you would like to take part in that. What is the one player that cannot leave Tennessee? This guy named Nico, he plays quarterback, 82% of the vote. Cooper Mays gets 11% of the vote. James Pierce gets 5% of the vote. Any coach not named Heupel gets 2% of the vote. You were saying, Caleb?
So I was saying that I think so Tennessee plays on top of that. There are a couple other big games that we got to note. So Tennessee actually has Alabama and Florida back-to-back weeks this year. They play Florida October the 12th and Alabama October the 19th. Now, historically, I would say that's a big deal for Tennessee. But honestly, Dave, I think Florida should be a circled win next year. If it's not, Tennessee's got real trouble as a program.
That's hot.
I agree with that. It should have been a circled win this year. They have Cooper Mays. That game's not close.
Yeah, I agree. So Florida, Alabama, back-to-back. So a couple of marquee games each week. I just want to run through them. Miami plays Florida August the 31st, and Notre Dame plays Texas A&M that weekend. That's going to be fun. Tennessee and Oklahoma, I mentioned. Georgia and Alabama, September the 28th. Georgia at Alabama. That's going to be fun. And Georgia at Texas, October the 19th, the same day Alabama plays Tennessee. Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, both October the 19th. That's going to be pretty epic, those two games together.
No, I agree. I completely agree. I can't get away from the Josh Heupel going back to Oklahoma.
Well, there's another one.
Okay, give me another one.
Well, this isn't a date, but because we know he's going back to Oklahoma, we also know that Mississippi State just hired Jeff Lebby. Josh Heupel is going to face his former offensive coordinator in Mississippi State. That was the offensive coordinator that he went undefeated with in 2018. And
these are interesting storylines by non-SEC people, that are kind of filtering. You used to talk about the same guys over and over, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Rodney Garner came into the SEC and they said you have to serve 3 years at every SEC school. But these are new names involved in the SEC, and I really dig it.
Oh, I agree. This is pretty epic. I mean, and then in November, you got some just non-Tennessee wins real quick. Alabama, LSU is typically. Texas and Arkansas, November the 16th. Alabama, Oklahoma, November the 23rd. And the Texas A&M rivalry returns November the 30th. But yeah, the storyline for college football, the first marquee SEC game on tap right now is Texas A&M and Florida, September the 14th. That's not a marquee game. The next marquee SEC game is Tennessee and Oklahoma, September the 21st. That's the first marquee SEC game of the year. And so that is going to be, and it's when the SEC is newly on ESPN and ABC. That's just
love it. Love it. Might be. My question is, will they get away from the 3:30 game being the Peach game? Noah James 98 asks, is this live? It is each and every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern. My question is the new SEC best TV time slot going to be at 8:00 instead of 3:30?
I believe so. I think the deal is a double header on ABC now, which again, just so you guys know, this is more proof that ABC and ESPN just straight up fleeced the SEC to be able to get a double header in the deal they got. But yeah, I do believe there will be a primetime game. I think it's going to be like 3:30 and 8, or it might even be noon and 8. But
No, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you look up and see what other national games are played on that weekend of the Tennessee-Oklahoma week? Is that possible?
Let me see. Maybe
in the meantime, I'll tell you that portions of the program brought to you by Herald Group Security Solutions, making your workplace safer, making your schools safer where your children go to school. We're working with private schools now. I want to work with public schools. Go to that school administrator. Let's avoid the tragedies of the past and tell that school administrator, Herald Group Security Solutions, leadership experience, specialization, addressing problems through unique mission-specific mitigation techniques. That's Herald Group Security Solutions, heraldgrp.com. So who else is playing on that day there, Caleb?
UCLA and LSU. That's not going to compete with Tennessee and Oklahoma.
They will not.
Let's see, Miami and South Florida, not going to compete. Look, that's a bad weekend of college football. By default, Tennessee, Oklahoma is going to be the best game. Illinois, Nebraska. Oh, USC, Michigan. USC, Michigan. That might compete. USC at Michigan is a big one that weekend.
Yeah.
My guess is
that should be huge when Lincoln Riley is the head coach of the Detroit, well, let's say the Carolina Panthers, just for fun.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So the interesting part about that is that because Fox now has the Big Ten and that contract goes into effect next year, and there's Big Noon Kickoff, which is their version of College Game Day. Big Noon is going to be at Michigan, USC. College Game Day is going to be at Tennessee, Oklahoma. That's how that's going to work.
Yeah, and I'm of the argument, you're not, that the overall promotion of the program on the sports centers in the world and different shows is going to slant towards the SEC, and it's worth taking a little bit less money. We'll see if I'm right.